Hi guys, Tuga here with a new video, and this video will be my Ultimate Fury Warrior PvP guide video for 10.2. We have been buffed on Rampage, Execute, a Ranging Blow, Crushing Blow, and also Annihilator, although I don't think, again, I will be speaking about it on the builds. Overall, it does look like you're doing more damage. I tested on a few people, I tested in arenas, I tested in PGs even in this morning, and I come to the conclusion that the damage is higher and it actually is more spiky. But I don't think like damage only is the problem of Fury Warrior. I think it's more about the survivability and how we are tied to self heals, and self heals gets crushed by dampening, especially in Soul Shuffle. But overall, we are going to do better than previous week for sure. I'm going to talk about stats, embellishments, tier sets. I'm going to talk about the builds. I have 3 builds for you guys today, but also I'm going to talk about the rotation. I'm going to try to show you guys the rotation on all those 3 builds. Although I think the difference is not that big, but you will see it with Trophy GCD. Now I have finally the add-on. You will see in the description the builds that I will be discussing, but again, I think it's interesting for you guys to watch the whole video so you have some context. We're going to talk about the PvP towns also. We're also going to talk about comps, although I think it's mostly the same as arms. I'm going to talk about it briefly. Soul Shuffle as well, their place in the meta, but also RBGs. And I'm going to talk about the rotation, show you the rotation and the macros. Now, let's start right away. So, Fury Warrior. I'm going to spoil you guys already. You only have and you only need 2 set. The 4 set is really... It's minor because you don't want to spam Bloodthirst, except if you're playing Annihilator. I guess you will have 4 set if you're playing arms anyways. Because I am playing arms, whenever I can get 4 set, I will be having 4 set. Unfortunately, I didn't really have a lot of luck on the how it's called, on the vault. So we can only have 3 set right now for me at least, and I wait for the 4 set next week probably. And in general, I think the 4 set is weaker on Fury, but the 2 set is really strong. But again, it's the tooltip is halved, so it's not going to do like insane damage as you would think. And of course you will do more damage if someone is low, but to bring them low you have to use your 2 set. So you will not have the biggest value except if you're like bursting and they are low. At that point you're going to murder them. But right now I think 2 set is good. What are you going to take on the 2 set? I think legs are going to take it. I think the chest is also very good to take. I think you want to take hands probably for verse haste, and then you want to take shoulders as I think head. You could use a better head, for example, what I use right now with binoculars. But of course, if you don't have choice, just take head and don't take shoulders. Personally, I don't like shoulders, but again, I made my head. I might just change it once we are like fully geared. I might take the head because again, it's a juicy amount of mastery and a bit of crit, while here it's crit and like a lot of crit and then a bit of haste. But again, I think if you want to run 2 set, I think it's better to go legs and chest. If you're playing arms as well, I think chest, hands, legs, and I would say if you have a choice, head instead of shoulders. But again, if you don't have a choice like me, I didn't really have a choice, so I prefer to have like my headpiece made to have full mastery and just take the shoulders and take the L pretty much. So that would be my tier set choices. Gear wise, there's no surprise. I like to play full mastery, although I'm not really full mastery because I play with double trinkets. So obviously my haste levels are very nice. I enjoy this pretty much. I really enjoy playing full mastery. It does a lot of damage, brings me to insane amount of rampage damage. This build is like a pure rampage build, and a bit of ranging blow, a bit of bloodthirst whenever you have the 2 set on, and a bit of crushing blow whenever you have nothing on. And then you have your onslaught actually doing some juicy damage. I critted for 200k today in this morning in a BG. So again, I think this build is the most suitable for Fury. You could play a bit more haste, and you could play actually full haste, but then I think it's probably better to go Annihilator, because then you would have a lot more value for your haste, in my opinion. And since every time you're going to do a rampage, you're going to stack haste, so you're going to have a lot of haste in general. So I feel like stacking haste upon haste upon haste is not going to give you like the juicy crits that you sometimes want to seek as a Fury warrior. So I do like that. I play with the Infurious War Boost of Impunity for the metal buff that you get for applying a loss of control effect or interrupt or whatever. There's also a world you play with the Venom kind of thing, where it gives you main stat, like the best stat you have, and you will lose some secondary stat. The problem is with that, often it gives you versatility, because you have more versatility than mastery, so you will get like just 10% more versatility. So I don't know if it's that good, because again, you see you have 6.4k versatility and 4.4k mastery, and they don't see it like the percentiles that you have of mastery and versatility, right? So what they do is pretty much like take the rating, so it's 6.4, and add it up, so you will get like 1000 rating extra. Often or not, it means that you're going to get a lot of versatility. But again, in what world do you want to have more versatility instead of mastery? In my opinion, I prefer mastery. It also scales way better, but unfortunately we cannot have that. But it's still a playable embellishment if you want to play. You could play both, but I think with Venom you want to have both parts, so you can actually improve it even better. But that's my opinion. Spore Cloak, don't take it. I think there is also a world where you play with the Elemental Lariat. That's also a good option. But overall, this is it. And for the people that are scared about the two-hander legendary, you don't have to have the two-hander legendary. I'm not going to have it. I don't think like it is a necessary thing. It does give some good stats. It does give you some good like passive and on hit whatever. It's nerfed in PvP, so it's not going to be game breaking in my opinion. Again, I didn't see one warrior have that, so again, it's difficult to know if it's going to be game breaking or not. Personally, I'm not going to chase it, so don't make it stop you to play arms or fury, because again, only 1% of them are actually going to get the legendary, right? So this is it. And like the enchants, pretty much strength, stamina, boot speed. I have to put something on my braces because I just got it. Sustained strength, and that's it. And also homebound speed on the cloak. You could play with full leech, but again, you're already ruined by dampening anyways, man. So I don't feel like you're putting even more like of a thing that is going to ruin you. I feel like speed is much more important, because whenever you're not doing damage, it's because you're getting kited mostly. But this is it for the stats, right? Let's talk about builds. So this is the build I'm running, and this is the build I'm actually enjoying the most right now. And as this is a build where I feel confident that you could climb with it if you have good matchups. Again, you can have bad matchups. It is what it is at the end of the day. But this is going to bring you the most burst damage, the most opportunities, and I think your damage overall, even without a burst, is actually also quite high. Some things to consider: there are a few points where you can remove, for example, improve whirlwind. If you feel like you only have to hit one target, you don't have to take that. You can put it somewhere else. And the same for hack and slash, you can also remove it. And if you really want to have the biggest burst and you want to actually like do a big blood test on someone that is low HP, you could play Vicious Contempt. It's actually very good, but again, what are the likelihood that your enemy is like below 35%? It doesn't happen that often, especially if someone is that low. Often than not, they are already in kill range, so you're just overkilling it. But this is going to add you more damage. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to also do blood test without your 2-set with this. Also blood bath. But again, I feel like it's a bit clunky. Sometimes it does good damage, and sometimes I do have like no impact with this. So currently I'm playing with those two, but if I feel like, look, I'm playing versus casters and they're not clumped up, I would be playing this and like try to shoot my shot and try to run away whenever I feel like I don't have any impact on the damage that I can produce. So that's pretty much it. There's also a world if you have like 2 one-handers, you can still play like this. You will have a bit less ability damage in my opinion. You will have more melee strikes and amount of melee strikes and such. I tested a bit. I found that the damage is similar, but you're losing like stamina. So I don't know how big it is. I think this should be giving you some stamina buff or something, because you're gimping yourself by playing single-minded fury. Or they should put it a PvP talent and make it like one-handers doing something extra, so you can actually like consider going for one-handers. But right now I feel like it's very difficult. I will be testing it once I have like better one-handers and such with like let's say world PvP gear. But right now I'm playing with this build mostly. On the class tree there's a few things that are interchangeable. You can remove fast footwork to second wind if you're playing BGs or RBGs or world PvP. I feel like this is actually a good talent for that. You could also play with sidearm if you're playing with full haste, because then you will have more impact with that, although the damage is very much unnoticeable. So again, it's like preference. You could also play with bitter immunity if you feel like you're playing versus a assassination rogue or whatever and you need to dispel poisons, but it's a 3-minute CD, so I don't know what you're going to dispel that's going to be that important, but personally you can just remove that. And also if you're playing versus a paladin or mage or whatever, it's always good to play shadowing throw. If you're playing versus a warlock, it's always good to play with wrecking throw, and sometimes you could even take the PvP talent that is actually going to improve your wrecking throw, and you'll be just removing the dark pact with just one button. But that is just purely opinion based. This is like depending on situations on a lot of stuff. For Fury, you don't really want to have Thunderclap, so this is a non-action. Overwhelming Rage is such a bad talent. I don't know why it still exists, but it exists. At least if it was a 1-pointer with 30 rage, why not? But even then, like, I don't feel like there is a lot of moments where I'm overcapping range, but whatever. Especially as Fury, you want to expand your rampage whenever you can. This is not that good. Crushing Force and actually Barbaric Training are actually better on another build that I'm going to show you, but this is pretty much to get Shockwave. If you feel like you have enough stuns in your team, because it can be, if you're playing with a mistweaver that has a leg sweep, if you're playing with a demon hunter, if you're playing with a windwalker, I feel like Shockwave, you're going to DR your allies too hard. So you could just remove that point of Shockwave and you put it in Uproar, so you would have a 1-minute CD, Thunderous Roar, which is actually a good ability to press, especially if you have like Battlefield Commander. It will just give you more damage overall, so that's also an option. But again, it depends on situations. If you have like stuns in your team, don't take Shockwave. I think it's not that good. But if you don't have stuns, then you should take Shockwave, because it is giving you another option to CC someone, right? And also stop interrupts. You can also interrupt people with that, so it's also quite interesting. So if they are doesn't matter. You want to stop a chaos ball, just Shockwave, so you can be safe for a few seconds. So that's it. Let's talk about Annihilator. So that is the second build, and what I think most people do play, although I think they are not really right doing that. I think Raging Blow is doing some alright damage right now, and also Crushing Blow. It also improves your rampage damage, but I'm going to show you once we are in the rotation. So this is going to give you some good damage on Slam, some good damage in Whirlwind. There's a world where you remove something to get Meat Cleaver. It's difficult because then again, this is going to add 25% more damage. Is it going to be enough to have an impact? I think not. So for now, I'm just removing this. I'm taking Vicious Contempt, which I like. There's also a world where you play with one-handed again. I understand that if you want to, it's like flavorful. I think pretty much it doesn't change too much on your damage, but you lose stamina though. So that's your decision, right? If you want to sacrifice stamina for flavor, you can play with this. It gives you more speed, so that's also always nice, but it's not going to be like game changing. You could also, like, if you're feeling like you're always a target and you're losing too much health, just play Warpaint with only 1 point in Vicious Contempt. Warpaint is 5% in PvP, so it's not even that good, but unfortunately it's still nerfed, man. But still, if you want to play that, you can still play that. You could also be defensive stance at all times. It's not like for example, Berserker stance is actually very good for Annihilator builds, but for the for the big damage build that I have, like that I play, you can actually sit defensive stance and you will not lose that much damage. It only improves your auto attacks. So again, do you really need that? It depends, right? I think auto attacks are not killing anyone, but abilities are. So that's why defensive stance can be an option. But so yeah, that would be the build pretty much. That would be the build. I will be showing the rotation as well. Some highlights: you go for attack speed modifiers because you want to have a lot of rage, and this is going to give you rage if you're hitting. This build is much more better if you play full haste. By the way, mastery. I feel like your hits are a bit slower, so you don't have a lot of like ramp up. But I understand why you would play mastery, because again, you can do some big slams. I'm going to show you as well in PvP. But that is a build. Then I have like the fun build, which is revolving around Ravager. There is like two variations. Either you play with Spear of Bastion, which is also an option, or you play with Thunderous Roar. And what you could do is remove Blood Rage. This is like for a pure melee cleave lobby. Like for example, if you're playing Soul Shuffle and you see like a Demon Hunter, DK, and let's say another warrior or whatever, you can play with this build, and with your Ravager, you're going to destroy people, and you don't need Blood Rage because nobody's going to kite you, right? So you could play Storm of Destruction with Battlefield Commander. So what you're going to do is pretty much Thunderous Roar, Ravager, and then you're going to build up and do some insane rampage damage. This is going to give you the biggest rampage damage possible, by the way. But it will be a bit less spiky because you don't have Tenderize. And Tenderize is giving you Slaughtering Strikes. Again, Slaughtering Strikes gives you a build-up where you can have 100% more damage on your rampage. And trust me, it does a lot of damage these days. So this is pretty much the build. Let's talk about the PvP talents really quickly and which ones you should go for. I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of choices, but not all of them are actually good choices. So if you're playing with Thunderous Roar, first and foremost, I feel like Battlefield Commander is a huge value talent. You have a lot of value on Battle Shout, Bursting Howl, Intimidating Shout, Rallying Cry, and also Thunderous Roar. It's something that is always going to be active. It's always going to be there. Having a root on your Piercing Howl actually helps versus, like, let's say a druid that is trying to leap. You can Piercing Howl and he will stay in place. Same for evokers, by the way. So this is going to be a great talent. If you feel like you're not the target, let's say you play a Fury Warrior with a Shadow Priest, you could play Safeguard. And Safeguard is going to help you make them survive more damage. It is going to be very strong. It is very interesting. But often than not, what I've seen is I am the target. So often than not, I will be playing Battlefield Commander. If I'm playing with a Shadow Priest, often than not, I do switch out and go for Safeguard, because then I can actually save my Shadow Priest. It's too strong. But again, it depends on lobbies, right? Blood Rage always going to be very interesting because of the anti-root effect and anti-snares. But it's a 20-second CD and you can get rooted or snared right away. So I think they should like put a anti-root element for 2 seconds, so you don't get rooted after you have used Blood Rage. But for now it is not the option, so it is what it is. Battle Trance I don't really enjoy too much. Again, dampening, man. Dampening just gives me the vibe of, if I'm playing Battle Trance, I'm losing a lot of value. And it's not for rage that you take it, because it's simply not a lot. 3 rage every 3 seconds is not going to give you a rampage, by the way. It's going to give you a bit of rage here and there, but it's not going to be like significant enough to actually play around range. This is going to be purely about health, and 3% of health is not going to be like game breaking. You're thinking about 1 million health pools with 3% of that. It's really little. It's nothing. Like it's nothing, right? It's 1/10 of an impending victory, by the way. So it's not going to impact too much. Every 3 seconds, by the way. It's if it was every second or every 2 seconds, maybe, but every 3 seconds, I don't know. I don't feel like it's that good. Barbarian, interesting in BGs. Death Sentence, I don't like it. I feel like it's bugged a bit. Enduring Rage, I like it, but I don't have the PvP talents for it, unfortunately. I like it because I always get a loss of control effect on me, but is it going to be something that you're going to take? I don't think so. Right now, it's difficult with the amount of PvP talents we have at this position. Death Wish, interesting in BGs, maybe in 2s, but you're very squishy already, so you're putting yourself even more in a squishy situation. But if you can have a 5-stack Death Wish and a 2 or 5-stack Rampage, you'll be crushing someone. But again, do you want to play around that? I don't know. I don't think it's that good. Blasphemy Commander, interesting. It's a 2-minute CD then. But often than not, games are ending before 2 minutes. Disarm, very strong versus Frost Decay, versus Arms, versus Enhancement Shaman, Subtlety Rogue. If you can actually disarm them while they're trying to set up something, it can help. But again, yeah, you have to sacrifice a PvP talent for it. But often than not, you will have to do that. Demolition, interesting versus warlocks and mistweavers. Mostly, that's all. You could also have some value on Disc Priest, but they put so many shields that you're going to remove one and he's going to reapply directly. So I feel like this is very strong versus like specific classes. Warbringer, I don't play that since they nerfed it. It's also very clunky as well, so I don't like that. Rebound, I sometimes play that in caster like lobbies. It's not the best. Let's be honest, it's not the best, but it's there. It can be interesting. Storm of Destruction is the one that I'm playing whenever I'm playing the 3rd build, so with the fun build, which I'm going to link in the description again. This is going to give you like a slow on Ravager. It's also giving you 1 minute CDs Ravager, so you're going to burst very often. It's very cool. Safeguard, again, if you're not a target and you want to save someone that is very squishy, that's going to be a good talent. If you feel like you're the target, it's going to be a wasted talent. Slaughterhouse, it is very interesting. You don't want to always play Slaughterhouse. If you're playing with, like, let's say, a windwalker, a arms warrior, a BM hunter with the pet that is actually giving mortal wounds. Again, sometimes I ask them to change pets. They don't do that. It is what it is. Those people, those classes and specs, and there's many more actually, they are actually removing those slaughterhouse stacks. So if you haven't had the slaughterhouse stacked before they do a mortal wound effect on the target, it will be removed, because they will take the stronger effect first, and they're going to remove every single thing that is a bit weaker. So for example, if you're doing a 1 rampage, it's going to give you 12%, right? Because it's 4 times 3, it's 12%. If you don't have the time to do a second one, even a third one, because it's 24%, but if you don't have a second one up, it's going to fall off because of a rising sun kick or a mortal strike, not even like a sharpened blade, but just a normal one, a pet attack with mortal wound, Felguard. Everything is going to drop your slaughterhouse, so you will never have the opportunity to stack it to 36%, which is actually a very good one. But again, that's why I say to some people to just drop their mortal wound effect, like for example the pets from hunters or assassination rogues. I try to ask them to not use wounding poison, but sometimes they don't, and then I have to switch out, so I have more PvP talents at that point. But again, it's really situational. But people should remind themselves, look, test it on a dummy, do 1 rampage and let someone hit with a more strike. Your slaughterhouse will not be stackable until the more strike is gone from the target. So it's not that good in those situations. But that's why it's better to play with a cast in general, in my opinion, as a Fury. Battlefield Commander, the same. Very interesting. So those are the PvP talents. Let's talk about comps really quickly. So in 2s, you're going to do fairly good actually. I think 2s, Fury Warrior is like one of the rare specs that are not very good at 3s and becomes very good in 2s. Again, about 3s, it's from past week, not this week. This week I will have to test a lot, so I can make a tier list about it. But right now, I feel like 2s, they are in their environment. You can do some pretty good things. You can actually use your 2 set way better in 2s. You will have and you will need a good healer though. So in my opinion, resto shamans are very good with a Fury Warrior. Mistweaver are actually very good with a Fury Warrior. I would even say a Fistweaver. I would say resto druids are quite good, but they cannot play as aggressive as, let's say, with a warlock. You can also have a lot of fun with a holy paladin. But those are like the main healers. I don't like to play with a priest in general because we are DRing each other on fear. They don't play that aggressive with me because I die too quickly, and I think they lack the throughput in twos. They have the throughput damage wise, so that's why they're very good paired with people that actually can survive for a minute. But Fury Warrior, if you're the target, you can actually get decimated very quickly. So those are my opinions. Threes, I prefer to play with a caster. So what I do is I want to play warrior shadow priest, warrior elemental shaman, warrior even boomy, warrior with a mage. All those things are very cool because again you are less the target, and if you're less the target you will have more opportunities to do your damage and more opportunities to actually have fun, in my opinion. Again, it's a bit less fun for the caster, but you have benefits. Hybrid comps like melee ranged are actually very strong. People do play like double melee or double caster because they want to zug. Again, double caster often is a zug fest, and double melee is also a zug fest. But melee caster brings like the little joys of having to CC properly, having to peel yourself, having to peel your allies, have to work around bursts, rotations, and again, I think it's a very fun thing. And I think Elemental Shaman with Fury Warrior is actually a good comp, in my opinion. And healer wise, it depends about comps, right? You can play with any healer. Personally, my preferred healer would be mistweaver, but I think mistweavers are very safe at some things. I think if you're playing like melee cleave, fist weaving is actually very strong. It's still dumb, even though they're nerfed. So Mistweaver, I would say Resto Shaman is also a very good healer. If you would play Shadow Priest, Warrior, Resto Shaman, that would be actually a very, very good comp, by the way. Yeah, Soul Shuffle. What is your place in the meta? I think, again, I made a video about it. It's a custom meta. I know that some people don't like it whenever I say that, but it is a custom meta. Although we do have more melees in the game, although people play more melee in the game, it doesn't make it any less meta. Anyways, so Fury Warriors will have some good compositions and some bad ones. I think personally, Soul Shuffle, you're very squishy. That's the issue. But anyone else is also squishy, so you could also win around your CDs, but you have to space your CDs out. People are just going to use their CDs and try to not use your CDs into their CDs. You have to sometimes peel away. Sometimes it's better to run away. If you're effective at that, you can actually like peel a lot of stuff off and up, and then you can actually like unload your burst onto them. But right now, I feel like you're better than previous week. I will have to test a lot. RBGs, I prefer arms because they have diverse sword, but Fury actually heals way better in RBGs, so you're less like inclined of dying. But it depends about maps. And SOLOQ RBGs, I think you can do some pretty good things. But again, this should be rated very soon, man. This should be rated. This is dumb that it's staying unrated because people are just not as hyped anymore to play that, unfortunately. But anyways, let's talk about rotations. I think most people like to see rotation. So now you see on top of my camera, you see True GCD. So whenever I'm pressing something, you will see it pop up on the top side. Okay. So this is the I need big damn build. Okay. I need big damn build. Again, you can see this is just Titan Stormers, right? People know that. I will link in the description the builds. I know people ask me every single time, but now I will do that so you can actually see and copy it and play for yourself. So we'll play with this build. So what you want to do, again, don't look too much on the damage because again modifiers are a bit bugged on this like dummy, but what you want to do is actually charge or walk up. It's probably better. Put a hamstring on the enemy, try to do raging blows, a whirlwind, so you have the stacks to cleave, and then you can just do a rampage, right? And you can just do this all a single time with a crushing blow preferred. You can also do a bloodbath, but it's preferred to do crushing blow. It does more damage. So for example, if I do a crushing blow, it does around like 80k normal hit. So this is the normal rotation. You try to rampage whenever you can, execute whenever you can, raging blow whenever you can, execute, rampage, execute, crushing blow, whirlwind, raging blow, And I really rarely touch bloodbath and bloodthirst. It really depends if I have my 2 set up right now or if I have like a burst rotation. So those are the things, right? And you put onslaught on the enemy and you can do a lot of damage. So this is pretty much like the normal rotation, right? So what you want to do is have a rampage up, try to rampage into Thunderous Roar Avatar, and then rampage, bloodbath, raging blow, rampage, bloodbath, execute, a rampage, bloodbath, and then you can do another burst with your onslaught, and then you can do a big Odin's Fury, rampage, bloodbath, execute, rampage, bloodbath, rampage, raging blow, rampage, execute, bloodbath, and you can do some neat damage, right? And this is going to be your meat and potatoes in general, and it's very spammy. I'm going to say, like, again, you try to hit what is lighting up. Execute has priority if you're not having a rampage, by the way, because this is doing some good damage. In PvP, I think on the dummy is a bit bugged, but in PvP it does a lot of damage. A crushing blow is very interesting, but again, if you have your 2 set, you should bloodbath. So if you have, like, let's say Odin's Fury or Avatar, you will have your bloodbath available. So what you want to do is, for example, onslaught into a rampage, into a Odin's Fury, into a bloodbath, into a rampage, into a crushing blow, into execute, rampage, bloodbath, and then you can just continue do that. And you try to hit whatever is actually available to you, right? So that is build pretty much. There's not much to discuss. You see that there's a lot of damage on bloodbath. 263k damage, which is, again, a lot of damage, but it's a bit lower in PvP. Again, it's a bit bugged on the dummy, unfortunately. If you're critting like 150k, it's actually a very good crit, pretty much. Execute does a lot of damage. Crushing blow does alright damage, in my opinion. It does okay damage, it's actually good. And raging blow as well. So those two are going to give you like 20% damage, so it's going to be like the same as a rampage. You have your Odin's Fury. Overall, you're going to do and deal some good damage. Now, let's talk about the Annihilator build. So, we have the Annihilator build, and this build is going to not have Raging Blow, which means that your rotation will be also with Slam. But Slam does a lot of damage, actually. So, what you want to do is you're going to walk up, but I'm going to charge in. You have Execute, and you can Slam inside those opportunities, right? And you're going to do some good damage on both Slam and your Whirlwind. And overall, if you want to burst, you want to wait to have 100 rage. What you want to do is then a rampage into a Thunderous Roar Avatar, and then you rampage again, bloodbath, execute, and then you can just continue do damage like this, right? And you can just continue with Odin's Fury. Again, it's a lot of damage. It's doing a lot of damage. Like, it's tough to say. Sometimes I want to play with this build. I do 160k how it's called, DPS, but again, it's scuffed because on a dummy it's way different, right? But you see, Annihilator does no damage, huh? So this, people are like crying out loud that this is going to be a strong thing, but it is not. It is not hitting like nearly enough to make up for the loss of Raging Blow, Crushing Blow. Meaties, you're hitting quite hard, but again, it's not enough. Odin's Fury does a lot of damage. Slam does good damage, by the way. 70k normal hit. If it critted, it would be around 120k, something like that. Again, Gushing Wounds does some good damage because of your crits of Bloodthirst and Bloodbath. Thunderous Roar did some good damage as well. But the main thing is your Bloodbath. Your Bloodbath is going to do and deal insane damage. You see 446k. But again, this is on a training dummy. You're never going to do and deal that amount of damage. Your Execute is going to deal a lot of damage as well. But this build is... whenever you're doing damage on this build, it feels you're not doing damage. So if you're going, let's say you're going to burst directly, you have a rampage, so you do rampage, avatar, another rampage into a bloodbath, execute, rampage, bloodbath, rampage, bloodbath, execute, rampage, Odin's Fury, bloodbath, another rampage, Rampa. You can do some good damage, but again, it's weird because it does 200k damage, and it's mostly because of all those crits. If you take out the 2 set, you will never have that amount of damage, but the 2 set doesn't do that damage in PvP, by the way. In PvP it's much lower, but still. I think I will be making social full videos as well, so you can see the builds in action. I will be playing way more Fury these days because I want to make it work. I enjoy Fury, although I think I enjoy more arms. I still enjoy Fury. But yeah, we have to test a lot of stuff. Now let's talk about the fun build. This is going to be a very fun one. This is the one that I'm actually enjoying the most, but I know it's not meta. I know it's a bit like trolly because again, you're relying on those one-shots, but once you have the one-shots available to you, you can actually do some good damage, right? So I'm going to show you once we have our CDs back, and I'm going to warm up a bit. I have my burst. Okay, so let's go. I have my rampage. I'm going to rampage directly, Ravager into a terrorist roar, into a rampage, into an avatar, and now I'm doing damage, right? So, and now I'm doing a lot of damage. Overall, this is going to give you one of the bigger bursts out there, but it's not going to be the same as Annihilator build because you don't have the bigger bloodthirsts. But overall, I mean, I like this build because it slows with the Ravager, it slows, it does a lot of damage overall because of the Hurricane. Overall, I have like a lot of enjoyment with this build, but I know that it's not really the most meta one. I know that it's tough to make it work in arenas because again, people are running away from Ravager, but Ravager does a lot of damage. It crits around the same in arenas still. Your onslaught actually crits for a lot as well. So overall, this would be the build that I would call the fun build. I think in RBGs it can also be very proficient. There's a lot of points that actually are interchangeable. I would never put slaughtering strikes away from this build because again, you will have 100% more damage on rampage. I wonder if I can actually test on someone. So I can actually show you the damage from the bloodthirst. It's going to be difficult though. I need to find someone that is willing to duel me. I don't think so. He's running away. Anyways, I'm going to show you guys in slow shuffle videos, right? But overall, this would be the builds. These would be the rotations. Let's talk about macros very quickly. I have a few macros, of course, intervene, party 2, party 1. We have the avatar, like burst macro, one-shot macro pretty much for any class and any spec. I would say avatar closest smash. Spear of Bastion, if you play, you can do it on yourself, so you can actually spear and the avatar directly. Recklessness, also demoralizing shout. So this is like the noob macro pretty much, but I do use that. I like it. This would be the macro if you have the emblem. Now I am not playing with emblem, but I have it. But if I play with emblem, I could be using this and put that instead. Actually, I should do that. But right now I'm not really using emblem, so that's why I'm not putting it up. We have Stormbolt cancel Blazestorm, but again, we don't have a Blazestorm anymore. Here, Recklessness with 14, so if you want to burst and you don't want to use your avatar, you can actually use your badge with Recklessness, so people are going to use CDs for that. So it's also interesting. We have Ravager at player, so you don't have to miss it. You can just put it on yourself, and it moves, by the way. So it moves towards the enemy. So I would be using that and actually have a lot of damage. And that's it. Those are the macros I'm using right now. Overall, I think Fury is in a great spot. What I mean with that is they are only going to get buffed from now. They're not going to get nerfed. I don't think they are like in a position where they can get nerfed in PvP. So if you're playing Fury, you're playing for the long game because you're going to get eventually either a rework or a buff or a change that is going to facilitate your life in arenas. But overall, I think warrior as a class is a fantastic class because you have arms, you have fury. Both of them are actually competitive to a certain level. I think fury is not, it's now way better than previous week. Again, it looks like a placebo buff, but it's not really a placebo buff. Actually, it does feel good in PvP. Just is the difficulty of getting kited. That's going to be the difficulty for this season for arms and for fury, which is happening often these days. But if you're playing threes, you can play with specs that can facilitate your life, and that could be actually a good thing. So again, I want to remind you guys in the description, the 3 builds. If anything, you can ask me what you want in the comments. I will be responding to you guys. This is one of the most updated guides on YouTube right now, by the way. There is no guide that is talking about the new buffs. There is no guides that talk about the 3 builds that are actually currently the most played builds for Fury, especially since I did test it, and I feel like those 3 builds are very good. And I think you can climb now on Fury a bit better than previous week, but again, the main problem was surviving. So again, I hope we do get something about our buff, like our talents that could be unnerved. For example, Warpaint could be unnerved and could be interesting to play. But right now, those are the builds, those are the stats. Please try it yourself, have fun with it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about it. And yeah, I look forward to see you in arenas, PGs, or on my live streams or YouTube videos. Again, thank you. Have a great day. Bye.